Think you know all the big brands have to offer? Well, here are 10 of the coolest watches from the biggest brands that you had no idea about. These are the hidden gems, the watches you never knew you wanted until now. Rolex has a secret menu for its rarest watches. Every year when Rolex announces its hot new watches to the world, it also adds a selection of incredibly cool and incredibly hard to get models that aren't even listed in the catalogue. At least not in the catalogue that you and I get to see. Unless your name rhymes with Bark Tallberg or Bed Clearan, this catalogue doesn't exist. Access to this selection of watches comes at the cost of, well, money, and lots of it. Rumour is you need to have spent at least $500,000 at a Rolex AD to even get to flick through its presumably glossy pages. I bet it smells amazing. Leaked from this year's selection is a ruby set Daytona and an emerald set GMT Master Sprite, complete with a matching set of cufflinks. The price believed to be about $250,000 each. The coolest Omega wipes the floor with Rolex. Ever heard of a Rolex with a tourbillon? What about a centrally mounted tourbillon that also acts as a center seconds with the hours and minutes set in floating discs around the outside? This is the Omega de Ville tourbillon, a $200,000 masterpiece from the people who brought you the Moonswatch. The de Ville collection was first created to retain the original 1948 Seamaster's elegant looks, once the sporty Seamaster 300 had taken over and became its own product line in 1967. Today it's one of the lesser known models in the Omega collection, and this tourbillon is the least known of all, despite the caliber 2640 with its twin barrels, 3-day power reserve and indicator, and superlative finishing, making it the best watch Omega makes. This is the Breitling for people who don't like Breitling. Forget John Travolta, forget Bentley, and cast your mind back to the 1950s, when Breitling was the absolute king of the aviation hill. Not only was the Breitling Navitimer cleaning up, but Breitling's invention of the second chronograph pusher had scored an invite to the British War Office for a gig building aviation instruments. And for the pilot's wrists, alongside the complex flight computer Navitimer, was built a simpler, clearer watch, the reference 765 AVI, known as the co-pilot because it was worn alongside the Navitimer. Yes, the Navitimer is so hard to read the time from that Breitling built a second watch as a backup. By 1964, the AVI had been tidied up with a black bezel with red 12 o'clock markers and white subdials, all providing better contrast and readability. And at 41mm, this re-edition is actually a normal human size too, which makes it not just cool, but actually wearable. This Cartier has an incredible trick. That sounds like clickbait until you actually see what the $250,000 Cartier Masse Mysterieuse can do. Instead of having a movement with an automatic winding rotor to power it up, the movement is the automatic winding rotor. Okay, so this is going to be trickier to get your head round than the ending of Tenet, and we've barely even started yet. Not only does the movement spin freely, the hands, well, they stay completely still, unaffected by the very thing that's providing it power, whizzing about all over the place. It's the craziest evolution of the mystery clocks Cartier have been producing since 1912, which mount hands on geared glass discs to give the impression that they're floating. Only this time, instead of 2 discs, there's 6, each made of sapphire. So including the front and back crystal, there are 8 layers of sapphire, and you can still see clearly all the way through. Rolex can barely do that with 1 layer. It took 8 years to make this watch, and it'll take another 8 for me to regrow the brain cells I lost trying to figure it out. The Siderale Scafusia is IWC's coolest watch. From the front, it looks like a fairly typical IWC Portuguese, albeit with the constant force tourbillon that manages decreasing mainspring torque over time. There's a power reserve and a second time zone, although not for any time zone we have here on Earth. This measures sidereal time, or star time, that is, the time it takes for the Earth to rotate 360 degrees, or once. But wait a minute, you blithering idiot, you're probably thinking. Isn't that exactly what a day is? What time is already measured against? Well, No. Because Earth is orbiting the Sun as well as rotating, to put the Sun back in the same place in the sky, it actually needs to rotate 0.98 degrees extra. And because Earth's orbit is elliptical, the differences between the two changes all the time. That's why the $800,000 Siderale Scafusia is so clever. And if that wasn't enough, there's a perpetual calendar display on the back that's like the watch showing it's working out, and a sky chart with the horizon line shown for your chosen location, including sunrise and sunset markers. And the coolest thing of all, the sky chart itself gets lighter and darker during day and night. If you want to support my channel, you can. Check out below the video or in the description for cool merch that'll make you the talk of the town, maybe. Or if you're a reader, there's a link to my novels in the description too. Thanks. The coolest Jaeger-LeCoultre is powered by air. Now, this is cheating a little bit because the Jaeger-LeCoultre Atmos is not a watch, it's a clock, but it's nonetheless one of the most impressive things you'll ever discover. The first was created in 1928 and was powered by absolutely nothing at all. Does that mean perpetual motion has been invented? Not quite, because although the Atmos doesn't need winding, plugging in or charging, it isn't creating its own energy. Instead, a chamber filled with ethyl chloride expands and contracts with minute changes in the air temperature, with the incredibly well balanced and low friction mechanism drawing from that tiny source of power. The most efficient models of Atmos clock can run for over 4 days from just a single degree of temperature change. This Tag Heuer has an incredible dial. The watch itself, a limited edition Carrera in 39mm with the classic Heuer logo, is already pitch perfect, quite simply borrowing the style of the 1963 original without trying to modernize it or be clever. There aren't any crown guards, there's no tachymeter, the hands and markers are very straightforward, and the crown and pushers are as standard as they come. But that's the beauty of it. Even in 1963 it was pretty dated, but no one complains that a Porsche of the same name from the same era is dated today. Think of this like an in-house singer with a modern Heuer 02 caliber inside it that's not going to leave you stranded by the side of the road. And then on top of all that, there's a ruby red dial that takes the watch into full boiled sweet territory. I've never seen another watch do this. This is Patek Philippe's 5236P, and it's definitely one of the less complicated looking Patek Philippes out there, but don't let that fool you. Typically, a Patek Philippe is made by developing a movement, usually a very clever, very complicated movement, and the functions will fall where the functions will fall. That means the dial of a complicated Patek Philippe can be harder to read than an eye test on a cruise ship in a storm. Not this Patek Philippe, because with a little inspiration from a pocket watch from 1972, it herds all those errant complications and aligns them neatly at the top of the dial. The day-night indicator and leap year manage to escape, but day, date and month are otherwise very neatly arranged in a line exactly as they should be read. The secret sauce to this splendid spread. There's 2 wheels for the day and month, with each getting a skinny wheel around the outside for each half of the date. You've never seen this Tudor before, guaranteed. It may be called the Glamour. It may sound like it's for people who are more Botox than person, but actually it's a simple case of the Tudor naming robot having a little breakdown and tarnishing a great watch with a terrible name. Its 39mm has a day and date complication, and with a gold crown and bezel costs just $2,450. Granted, it may be one of the few Tudors still packing a Solita instead of one of the in-house movements, but that's so you can get the presidential day-date combo in a watch that doesn't need you to be a world leader to afford it. The opaline dial is as posh as a corgi with a top hat, and the skeleton hands in black and gold, matching the markers and branding, pop better than bubble wrap in a trash compactor. This bargain Longines packs Patek punch. If you spend your days wistfully pining over Calatravas, Traditionnels and the one Breguet makes, but your leather wallet has as much chance of coming back to life as it does paying for one of these fine watches, then check out this Longines. Black leaf hands, a brushed salmon dial with engraved Breguet numerals, and a 38.5mm steel case combine for more elegance than Audrey Hepburn at Paris Fashion Week on Elegance Day. Inside is a unique to Longines Etta bass caliber with a slower vintage beat, and yet a very modern silicon balance spring and 72-hour power reserve. It's otherwise a simple watch, very well executed, and enjoys a very unelegant and practically uncouth price of $2,500. Those are the underrated watches I think should be getting the attention, but ultimately don't. What would you pick? Let me know down in the comments below. Please also like and subscribe, and don't forget to squeeze your toothpaste from the middle. Goodbye. Still here? Watch this video next.